keep our freedoms, stay with us in the hopes that we have clear minds and make good decisions over the next 2 days. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call.
Meredith Fraley. Here. Bill England.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Julia Coates.
Here.
Bradley Cobb. Joe Crittenden. Jody Fishinghawk. Janelle Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskin Jr. Tyler Gloria Jordan.
Present.
Curtis Snell. Chris Stokes. David Thornton. Kara Callum Watts.
Honey.
We have a quorum. Okay, the purpose of meeting today is discussion and possible action covering bad addresses of tribal citizens in tribal elections. Ms. Tina?
Yes, I was part of a meeting that took place at 1:30 concerning the bad address list. And as a result of that meeting, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong in the motion I'm going to make, but as a result of that meeting, I believe that we want to make a motion that Leela Almatisky of registration come before us, starting with the August Rules Committee meeting, and report monthly on her department's updating of the bad addresses through all sources that they have available to them. And that she will be the main department to take the addresses, and then we'll filter back out information to the smaller databases. But she will be the centralized database, and they think or believe they can do this with a policy change. So the motion would be that we ask her to come starting with the August meeting and report to us on her ability to do that.
Her ability to address bad addresses?
Right, to create a database with a very, very small percentage over a period of time of bad addresses.
Do I have a second? Moved and second. Now I'm open for discussion. Mr. Baker?
Yes, because I think the purpose is that Leela's going to report to us to be sure that these different procedures are being changed and are working. And then if they're not working, then she will let us know. And if we need to follow through with legislation, then we will at a later date. But first, we're going to give the administration a chance to do what they can to correct the problem.
So we're going to try to develop policy first, and then if that, based on her reporting, if that isn't effective, then we go develop legislation.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Baker?
That's right.
And then I assume that once we get really good addresses, then we can address the Election Commission, that they can take these good addresses and correct the voters' registration. I mean, is that the ultimate end of this?
Mr. Baker, you want to address that?
Yes, I will. Yes. And we actually would like for the Election Commission to be a part of the reporting of bad addresses to registration and vice versa. So that's still part of what will be worked out. And there's where we may need legislation to get the cooperation of the administration and Election Commission. Then that's why with her reporting, we will know what is happening and what we need to do. Thank you.
Mr. Todd, did you have a comment?
Yes, just to reiterate that, it's the idea to have the Election Commission on the front end of this instead of on the back end, and that I would recommend that when the Election Commission is completely formed, that on their first agenda that this issue be brought forward to them, so that we can voluntarily open up their databases to be included in this scrubbing or this database that's going to take place. And hopefully with the new Election Commission, and this can all be done on a copacetic basis.
Mr. Bezer?
Mr. Baker asked part of the question I was going to ask, but I guess two parts of it here is does anybody know what we've done in the past to try to update those addresses? Do you know, Mr. Baker? Todd, do you have any
Well, when you talk about those addresses, are you talking about the election commission?
Well, no, the voter's address. But what have we done in the past to try to get new addresses?
Well,
Have we done anything?
Well, there have been several attempts in the past, and Ms. Leila Yamatisky, alluded to that in her meeting, that, it seems that we take a stab at this every few years and never follow, completely through with it. It is, my hope and hers, and the hope of the people that were at the meeting that day is to, that now the technology exists and the expertise exists here at the Cherokee Nation to have such an auto update in our election services or in our tribal services, that the registration department can be the central base for good addresses and can share those good addresses with other databases such as health, community services, election commission. But in order to get that first good list, we're going to have to involve all aspects of the Cherokee Nation. So yes, to answer your question, there has been attempts. And hopefully that this attempt now will be one that we will see to fruition.
Any questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion to have the registrar to report to the Rules Committee each month on their work on bad addresses. Moved and second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Okay, that was good and easy. Todd, is there a particular section you recommend that we proceed as far as election law is concerned? Shelley did make copies for everyone. However, Bill John has a question, and it's a good question. What page is that on, Bill John?
Madam Chairman, with your indulgence, I would like to speak first a little bit about the act that is going to come up tonight, which originated out of this subcommittee. In preparing for tonight's meeting, I reread Chief Smith's veto of the previous act, and I believe we've answered all of his concerns that were in the previous veto message. He did bring up one point which I think is correct, in that I would ask for amendment on the floor tonight. With us going to 15 separate districts and one counselor per district, if that passes, there's two sections in the law that need to be stricken. That is Section 5, subsection C and D. Now, D needs to be stricken in its entirety because it deals directly with districts having 2 or more counselors. Well, we are not going to have that system if this act passed. So Section 5D must come out. I would also recommend that the last 2 sentences in Section 5C be deleted. So you would delete, the resulting percentage shall determine the number of representatives per district. Hence, we are not going to have any number other than 1 per district. And the last sentence reads, all percentage points 0.5 or higher shall be rounded upward to the nearest whole number, and all percentage points less than 0.5 shall be rounded downward to the nearest whole number. That goes with representatives per district. I would recommend the last 2 sentences of 5C be stricken tonight, and that Section 5D be stricken tonight. I just wanted to make that point so that you all may consider that, and that some counselor can make the appropriate motion if they so desire. Also, coming up tonight, as we know, is the district legislation. I have had an email sent out to everyone and have mentioned it to all the counselors about if it's your prerogative or desire to change the name of your district, now would be an appropriate time to do that. I have gotten some responses which I have incorporated in this act. If I haven't received a response from you, I have just did my best by saying Cherokee East, Cherokee West, Sequoia, one Sequoia and then one Sequoia West, because I haven't got a response from Mr. Thornton. But I've just done it closely to the names of the previous districts. I would ask that at tonight's meeting, if there is a particular name for your district that you want, that you make that amendment on the floor. And that's all I have to say about that act at this point, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Todd? Oh, sorry, Tina.
Todd, on that number 5, representation by district, will we also want to amend A to change it from 9 to 15?
A is amended all the way through. That's the act that...
Okay, so that's, and then I think Joe John and I want to be called Cherokee District 1 and Cherokee District 2, right? Just keep Cherokee name and just call one of them.
Instead of East-West 1, 2?
Well, I think we're District 1 and 2.
District 2 anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they will need to amend that tonight.
We can make that statement, beginning without any objection, take it as a friendly amendment. Jody is the sponsor of the legislation, so you would just make that friendly amendment, and Jody as the sponsor would accept it as a friendly.
Madam Chairman, I'm thinking, I haven't talked to Curtis yet either, but I'm thinking the same thing as Tina and Mr. Baker's thinking. Maybe instead of Delaware North and Delaware South, it's just Delaware District 14 and Delaware District 15.
Be fine.
Well, and the reason I say that is because part of my district would cover Ottawa County, and it's not leaving, I guess it wouldn't leave out either way, because it's never been named Delaware Ottawa County, it's been Delaware District. So we may want to change our, we probably will change our district to Delaware District 14 and 15.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for Todd? Okay,
And I guess-
we'll make those amendments. You suggest we make those amendments tonight?
On the floor, yes. And then as to the act itself, what I would recommend, obviously, it's at the committee's discretion, but I would recommend going through the code section by section. And because we have spent, when we first started this, we said that the first question we had to answer is districts. Now, apparently that question has been answered or will be tonight. So therefore, we would, I would just represent, go, Chapter 2, Election Commission, go through it section by section. I know that's a long way to do it, or if there's any particular way that the council would want, or if there's any particular issue you want to address today, I'd be happy to discuss that too.
Okay, Mr. Baker has here.
Todd, when I was reading through this, in that same section 5, the E is already been struck and through.
Yes.
Why is that already done?
Let me see this. Actually, this was, we have passed a separate act as to this. This is an old version. When we were first tackling this problem prior to the court approving the 1999 Constitution, there is a separate act that already establishes staggered terms.
Okay.
So, I mean, that should already be plugged in to this act.
Okay, so it's plugged in elsewhere. I mean,
Correct.
in its own freestanding act.
Yes.
All right. I knew that's what we did, but
Yes.
I was wondering why
Yep.
it was marked out.
Okay, Mr. Todd. Tina, did you have a question?
Well, I just wondered, since we might not be sure we've got the very last act, should we maybe wait till next time? Because somehow, is this on the agenda?
No.
What?
We're just going to take this and go through it, and then next time, I guess, we're going to talk about what changes?
Yeah, and this was just to take up the time that we have remaining.
Will we know whether we have a full setting election commission by then? I mean, is there going to be...
Last time I talked to Melanie, she thought that the chief was about ready to make some nominations.
Because would we not want them to be a little bit involved with the next phase?
Yeah, particularly the, Todd, did you...
By all means, and this is not a process that's going to take a month or two. I mean, anytime we've gone through the revision of or the review of the election code, it's a several-month process. So, and before it gets put into or taken to full council, I would highly recommend that we have the not approval, but at least the input of the election commission and/or Wanda and her staff concerning these things.
So we will tonight have taken care of Chapter 1, and we'll be moving to Chapter 2, I guess, next time.
So that
Well, I mean,
or is there some
tonight takes care of the districting, okay?
districting?
You know, caveat, veto, and whatever would happen after that. But what I would recommend is that in a subcommittee or or even working group, that we go through it and say, okay, here's Chapter 2, Section 11. Does anyone have a problem with that section? Or and go through it seriatim, sort of like that, all the way through, unless there is just a pressing issue that or concept that the council would want to deal with immediately. But systematically, if we go through it section by section, it might take a meeting or two, and then we can say, well, these are the recommendations that this subcommittee has. Go to the election commission, see what ideas that they would have, and then go to a full rules committee, and go to full council. Mindful, we are still 3 years or 2.5. How far away from the next election? 3 years to the next election.
Any other questions or comments? So, Mr. Todd, take off.
All right. Chapter 2, Section 11 deals with the establishment of the election commission, where we have the 2 appointed by council, 2 appointed by the principal chief, 1 of those selected and confirmed by both. I can tell you that this is a unique section of unique to most election codes, and I think works very well. It promotes independence in your commission. It ensures that one branch does not overly weight the election commission. It's unique, and I think it's unique because just people have not caught on to it yet. But every speech I give on election codes, I recommend it. So as to Section 11A, I would recommend no changes. Section B deals with the term. With the new election, or with the new Constitution, the Election Commission is a permanent office. So we, and I believe we already do that with set terms now, instead of in the past, the Election Commission's terms automatically expired 6 months after the last date of the election. So we may want to look at that, but we want to make sure that we appoint our election commissioners to a specific term of years instead of by the an automatic sunset clause in there. And it has a term of how to fill the vacancy. If the vacancy if it's a council appointment that is vacant, then the council replaces it, etc.
Can you put a time limit on there or something? Because this one's been going on 10 months now, has it, from October till now?
Well, that there's an election commission not seated? Well, we had it in there that it says, appointed, as soon as practicable, preferably within 6 months of the expiration of the term of the election commission. Well, that has not occurred. Now, if it is, the desire of the committee to say that, to prod us along in the appointments, we can put in a drop dead date, is that all election commissioners shall be appointed by October 1 of, help me out, how would we word that? If we wanted to put a drop dead date. Any election commissioner would be appointed, shall be appointed within 6 months of the expiration of the previous election commission. Would that be something desirable? I mean, obviously not that language itself, because we're just working here. But I guess I would ask the committee, do you want a drop-dead date, or do you want it to remain the same?
Mr. Baker?
And I apologize, I stepped out, I didn't hear all of your reasoning, but, we're going to need an election commission every 2 years, no matter what. And it would just make sense that we do it like a judgeship or whatever, that they're appointed until replaced. And if we fail to act, they stay. That way, we've always got an election commission. And we can bring it up, and if we argue about it, we won't be without waiting for us to get together on appointing somebody, or the chief, or the three of them, or the four of them appointing the fifth. And I'd almost be for they serve until they're replaced.
Okay, so holdover type clause in there.
You could put it the,
Mr. Baker?
Now, in this means that they would still serve, say, a 4-year term or whatever, but if they're not replaced, we still want the 4-year term for them.
Right.
Yes. They're not for life. It doesn't drop dead until the replacement is.
Okay, I just want to clarify that there was a term limit there. Okay.
And that would prompt that if there are election commissioners on there that were displeasing to one branch of government or not, that it would spark action to, at the end of their term to replace them. And I'll say this on the record, that means Rick Doherty would still be election commissioner. But he's a good friend of mine.
well, Todd, you could just add right there at the end of the next to last sentence, or until the vacancy is filled.
Yeah. Holdover language is real easy to supplement in there.
Mr. Garvin?
Yes, to add to that idea, I think it'd be good if it's kind of staggered too. We wouldn't lose them all at one whack.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. We've already appointed the two council people for 4-year terms. We would then need to talk to the chief to see if he'd be willing to appoint his for 2-year terms before we even
Or 6.
get, or 6, So, okay. So before implementing that in law, I would recommend then communication with the administration to see if they're willing to do that. And then we're gonna have 5 members, so that 4th, you could, or that 5th member that is chosen between the 4 can be a 4-year term, I guess.
Mr. Baker and then Ms. Dinah.
Would we not ask the chief for a 3 or 5? We don't want the election cycle them to be ending before the election.
Right.
I mean, we need to think about the math just a little bit, so that any turmoil would be, any changing of the guard would not, because we're going to have elections every 2 years. So we need to...
Sure, and I'm the world's worst at math, but what I will do is create a scenario for a holdover language and staggering language to be considered by this committee.
And Mr. Buzzard?
Yeah, and just to add to that, in case one of the election commission would resign, I think we probably need, to fill that within 6 months or 90 days or 120 days, something, because it can conceivably stay open from now on. If you want to put something in there to say that.
Well, if there's a vacancy, that body that chose that commissioner gets to reappoint. Okay, so if it's council, it's up to the council to do it. And you're saying to have a time limit by which they do that?
Within 6 months or 120 days or whatever we're going to put in there.
Lori Jordan?
Would it be possible time to let the executive branch have a 4 and a 6 year appointment? Well, let's do 4 and 6, and then we would have a 4, and we would move one of ours to 6. That way, each body is they're not just completely, the body's not completely losing their experience.
Well, then we would have to reappoint one of them for
A 6-year term.
or 3 or 5 or whatever the math works out.
Or make ours 4 and 6 and do 3 and 5, or vice versa.
We will work on that. We will work on a staggering mechanism.
Mr. Baker?
Yes, I was going to suggest that we continue with the 4-year terms now, and at the end of the 4-year terms, that then we appoint one from the council and one from the chief for 2 years, and then one for each for 4 years, and then that would get them staggered. But we can still appoint them for 4 years now, since there won't be another general election until 4 years.
Yeah, and I would be happy to talk with anyone about that. But I guess the concept to be considered is staggering, and we just need to, get together and see how to best implement that.
Any other questions, comments?
Okay. Qualifications has been revised, from at our previous attempt on this. I see no problem with the qualifications aspect of it. The only thing that was of great debate last time was whether former elected officials should be qualified to be election commissioners, and the previous council made the determination that former elected officials could be election commissioners. But I see no problem with qualifications. Duties are pretty straightforward. Again, in meetings, Robert Rules of Order, hire independent legal counsel as needed, use available technology, oversee registration of voters, maintain current list, and shall use all efforts to diligently update said list with correct address and phone numbers. If it is needed in the future to amend this law to require communication with the registration department, this is where you would make that change right there. Develop rules and regulations necessary to conduct Cherokee Nation elections, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is one thing we had added. Said rules are to be published in the Cherokee Phoenix and on the official website of the Cherokee Nation as soon as practicable after transmittal to the council.
Todd, can you hold up just a second,
yes.
Mr. Baker?
Is that rules where we'd come up with that they would be a system of correcting addresses in the off years and such as that, and working with registration to have correct addresses?
I hadn't given any thought as to how we would word that. I mean, I would use, if it is that we get some pushback about the sanctity of the election commission database, we would obviously want mandatory language in there, such as shall, cooperate with the registration department, or shall use the registrations, list, etc. I don't know, but if I would like to see our meetings with the election commission first to see how we get along.
Todd, where are you?
I am on number 7, development of rules and regulations necessary to conduct the Cherokee Nation election, and transmitted to the council no later than 90 days before the first day of filing for the election for which the said rules are to be done. 90 days before the election, that's 3 months. That's what that's what it requires. That's pretty close to the election date, that I think. We might consider extending that 120 days or 150 days and also these are developed by the election commission and transmitted to the council. Notice it's not approved by the council, it is merely transmitted to the council, and that then those rules are published. If there was going to be a change in that, I would think about extending that 90-day requirement because with 3 months to know by which rules you're going to play by, although they will be substantially the same year in, year out. A challenger in particularly may want to have those rules, or someone outside the Cherokee Nation may want to have those rules available to them earlier. And I'll just put that out as a suggestion. So that's something to think about. Their duties to approve the number and location of precincts, notify the council of the identity of such sites no later than 90 days before the first day of filing for the election. Said locations are being published in the Phoenix, etc., etc. And that seems to work well. Obviously, they would, I think, entertain suggestions from councilors as to the location and number of precincts per district, in particularly in that we're going to apparently have 15 districts. I think there's going to need to be a lot of cooperation between the election commissioners and those councilors that know their district to say, hey, look, for instance, in Three Rivers, here's my new district. I think there should be a precinct here, here, and here. And likewise, you all know your districts better than anyone else. And I think your input to the commission as to where precincts should be located would be welcomed.
Mr. Garvin?
Will the election commission put the people into the proper precinct, or how will that be done?
Yeah, they would make a determination, I'm assuming, that let's say District 3 needs 3 polling places, okay, located in Muskogee or wherever, Weber's Falls, or wherever they end up being, and that they would send notification to the voters that you are now, you vote in, precinct 1 of District 3, and here's your voter, here's your location. There's going to be a tremendous amount of work that's going to need to be done, but not insurmountable, because we're starting anew basically with these new districts, and that's why I think it's going to be so important for councilors to be involved with the new election commission to let them know that area.
Mr. Baker?
And to that point, the Chapter 3 says that if said person is a resident voter as defined herein, he or she shall affiliate with the district in which he or she resides. How are we going to give them the opportunity to affiliate where they live.
Where you're on chapter 3?
Yeah, I skipped ahead, but
Yeah, you did.
it's to what, well, but it's exactly what Don was going at.
What do you mean, give them a chance to affiliate what district?
It says they shall affiliate with the district that they live in.
Okay, I live in Cherokee County, east of Highway 82, so therefore, that's where I'm affiliated.
And we're going to expect geodata to put you where you belong. Or we're going to have you re-register.
No, I think, and that's part of the deal. You're going to have to, check these addresses and check these locations as best you can. And if, I live east of Highway 82, so therefore I'm going to be in District 1, and I think a lot of it can be done without having to re-register, given the thought that, say, here's Todd Hembry located at 702 Jeffrey Street. Okay, you're east of there, Todd Hembry, we're going to send you a card that you now vote at Sequoia High School, or I vote at wherever else. A lot of that can be done, by just investigating the voter registration.
Ms. Gloria Jordan.
Well, this seems to go to that we're talking about affiliating with a district versus, I think, he's talking about affiliating with a box. There's a difference between where you vote and the district you vote in. You might vote at one of 3 or 4 boxes within a district, but this says you're to affiliate with your district like they would affiliate with
If they live across the highway, they affiliate with 2. If they live this side, they affiliate with 1.
But the election commission would decide which box they go to within that district.
Right.
They could send a little card like our county election board. She sent me a card 4 times over the last 20-some years. It says, we know you haven't moved, but you're going to vote here now. Because we're right on the line, so she just keeps moving us to, we have 4 boxes, and I think at one time or another, I've been told to vote at any of those 4 boxes.
And you voted all 4.
I think that the purpose for the language in that is to put it into law that I can't affiliate with District 1 if I live in Stillwell. I have to affiliate in the district in which I live. And, that's, you live where you live. Okay. Provide the various precincts with proper instruction. Number 10, determine the eligibility of candidates for office in Code Section 36. Conduct all recounts, and we follow all that through. Prepare and order the official ballot or ballots. Issue ballots. This is all standard language, or kind of duties that are given. I can tell you Section 17 was at one point in the history of the election code a point of contention. Provide written reports and recommendations not less than on a monthly basis to the council and principal chief through the Rules Committee on activities of the commission related to the conduct of election. The chairman or his and her designee shall give said report no less on a monthly basis. That's kind of hard to do when there's no election commission in place, as we've seen. But I think that's good general language that doesn't, that I think it's language that doesn't overstep the independence of the election commission. All it says is that they are required, just like any number of agencies or departments, to give reports to the council. 18 is something I think we're going to need to visit in detail at some point. Investigate and audit all financial reports and disclosures required by this act, and to report any violations to the Cherokee Nation prosecutor and or law enforcement. Further, the Election Commission has the authority to assess fines, penalties, or other sanctions authorized by this act. Often, and this has been, in several election commissions in the past, they have stated, well, we just don't have the authority to do that, or you have not set out the authority to do that. This is a very general, broad language in this. If we're going to do a comprehensive revision of the election commission, I would recommend that there be a very substantive effort to identify exactly what they can do and what they can assess, because they have been reluctant, and I'm not saying that's a fault of theirs, but they have been reluctant, given the vagueness of vagueness that they've perceived through the act. This also would coincide with counselors who have wished to look into the creation of an ethics commission. If we do create an ethics commission, this would be something that we would turn over that investigative body to them instead of the election commission. So that's some food for thought in that regard. And then E, meetings of the election commission shall be open. Meetings at the, and that is all fine and good. Also, a lot of that section the requirements of FOIA would apply to the meetings of the election commission, since they are a political body of the Cherokee Nation. They're going to have to abide by those requirements also. So that language is probably really not necessary at this stage, but it doesn't hurt to add it in there. Compensation, they should receive a stipend, and that's legitimate. Removal of election commission members, willful neglect of duty, corruption of office, drunkenness, incompetency, malfeasances, the standard language for removal of any officer. Also, we have an impeachment statute. I'd have to review that to make sure, but I think the election commissioners would be covered under the impeachment statute also. It gives them due process. There in G, I think this is good language. I'll just have to check. I'm going to make a note of myself to check against the impeachment act.
Okay, kind of.
Wouldn't we want to change that to Supreme Court?
Yeah. Whenever we do revisions of act, we should be aware that whenever we see something from the old Constitution, change it.
And additionally, could we maybe stop here and work on it from here on? We're running out of our time, and pick up here at the next meeting. Would that be appropriate?
You want to do this section by section so that we'll know we can be prepared to ask questions or answer questions next meeting, Mr. Hoskins?
Well, just sort of in that regard, as we were sitting here talking about the section I was recalling that, there's been a call for suggested changes, and I think one of my changes actually was in this section. Didn't come prepared with that draft today, but that might be, I don't know if all those documents that were circulated can be recirculated, or, I certainly have my copy, but I don't know about the others as we're talking about these sections.
Can you recirculate those to the council?
Which documents?
I recall that there was, when we started this process, there was a request for suggested changes. I made some suggestions, I think others did too, and as we're talking about those, certainly we can all take the initiative to resubmit them.
So what's our assignment next time? Section
Read the act. Read the act whenever you can. Make notations. If you could forward them to me, your ideas before the next subcommittee, that'd be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, if we could just have, we'll go through it section by section. If you have gone through it ahead of time, we can go through it much faster, and we would have better discussion on it. Well, we'll have a good discussion, but if you're if you know what's
And those
coming up.
suggested
Yeah.
changes that Mr. Hoskin recommended, if we would submit those to you also.
Any and all recommended suggestions, whether it's on the first part of the act or the last part of the act.
What
whenever
day do you want them by?
The day before. I mean, just any time, just as you think of them, send them to me.
All right. And then, any other questions, comments?
Move to adjourn.
Moved and second to adjourn. All in favor, aye? All opposed, same sign.
What did you do for?
I have a month.